All right. Ethics is probably the most important subject that we human beings engage in. And this brings about a question of how can we simplify ethics in order to improve our lives. So there is a formula for articulating ethics that's a little bit complex, a little advanced, but you can kind of simplify it into this idea of allow people to volunteer, allow people to volunteer for whatever it is that you want them to do. Um, and also, you have to assess their capacity to volunteer. Uh, but that said, I would say to add to that sort of, ethical viewpoint, you as an individual, if you feel like you have the capacity for a leader or leadership role or something like that, you should communicate the ideal, you know? So how does this voluntary type of view work? It's to say, think of an ethical circumstance or an unethical circumstance, right? I.e., theft or lying, right? Why is lying unethical? It is because somebody cannot volunteer to be deceived. You know what I mean? Someone does not have the capacity to volunteer to be deceived, unless, of course, and this is where it gets interesting and consistent with what we expect in an ethical framework. If they say, lie to me, you know, like if they voluntarily say, hey, lie to me, or don't tell me the truth. Or like that song goes, if you're playing me, keep it on the low, because my car can't take it anymore. Um, it's such a stupid song, but still, it's this sort of concept of, yeah, if two people volunteer to do something, then like just let it be. You know, you can, of course, because it's still important in regards to future generations, promote what you believe is ideal, So obviously somebody could, for instance, volunteer to be, childless or something, right? And you may find that disagreeable. And whomever else may find that disagreeable, but that's on you. All you should do is just communicate what you believe is ideal. If you believe it's ideal for, adults or young adults to have children, then by all means just promote it that way, but do not look at it as wrong for somebody else to volunteer their life in a different manner, right? Obviously, if you forcibly sterilize somebody, that is not voluntarily. That is not voluntarily, and that's why it's unethical. But if somebody who isn't sterile says, "Look, I'm not going to have a child," that's not a problem. The same with regards to issues like, let's say, oh, this person voted or this person didn't vote. Instead of being quick to condemn other people, just say, hey, look, all of us on this planet are living our last day. If we're alive, we're living our last day, and insofar as we are living that last day, or we're living our moment, this moment right now, let us be free to do what we're doing. Now this gets complicated, a little complicated. This is where it's a little bit more complicated, is that when you violate somebody else's freedom or somebody else's ability to volunteer on their own, right? When and you could also look at this as a consent argument, right? But when you violate somebody else's ability to volunteer, or somebody else's voluntarily, whatever, that's when some authority, or that's when it becomes ethical to then violate the violator, right? As to say, if you see somebody stealing somebody else's purse, right, and running off, you can stop the person who's stealing the purse, and that would be consistent with like a more broad ethical ideology. Of course, I do articulate more on this ethical ideology in my book. I should have had it on hand, but in the Book of Power. So make sure you guys check out that. There's a chapter on the laws of Ma'at, and of course the laws of morality, and so on and so forth. But I think this sort of simplification on ethics is really something to go by and live by. It's particularly because, like, for instance, I have this acquaintance who has trouble with. He says he has trouble with talking to ladies, right? He's like, I don't know if I should talk to them. I don't know if I'm going to seem to be harassing them, blah, 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 blah. Right? And, it's very clear that if you do not have an ethical framework where you say, hey, look, you know what? If I engage a stranger, it's going to be on the basis of them volunteering their time with me. Like, I'm not going to pressure them. I'm not going to surround them. I'm not going to force them into conversation. I'm just going to casually converse and keep it very free, right? If you don't have that sort of ethical framework, but instead you have a framework of, well, am I doing something wrong? Am I so on and so forth? You're going to have the paralysis of analysis, or even you're just going to not do anything. Uh, I know it's the same thing, but in that regard, it's really important for you as a human being to have a ethical framework. And I think this simplified version, is very useful. Of course, like I said, if you want to broaden it, you can explore the books, you can explore the literature. But for all intents and purposes, this is a very simplified view that can really aid in your navigation of this planet. We're all here on this earth. I would say equally, all here on this earth, just navigating. You know, and having an ethical framework in mind can make your life that much easier, as well as the lives of those around you. So I appreciate you listening. If you listen to the end, obviously, check me out. I mean, definitely subscribe, share, like, all that kind of jazz. Write me if you have any questions or concerns. Obviously, click the link below if you want to join the Discord. But yeah, an ethical framework is really, really critical, and I hope you guys, put some thought into this. Other than that, Shemem Hotep, Uncle Jas, and Neb Neb, Amen Ma'at, Dua Necher.